Microsoft has just officially revealed the very long-rumored new model of the Xbox One, the Xbox One S all digital. A system that removes the disc tray in favor of making a digitally focused experience, and they were awesome enough to send us one early to check out. The goal of this design is to offer a version of the Xbox that is focused entirely on just the digital experience. In fact, you can see that not only have they removed the disc drive, but they even removed the little slot from the front design, making this a One S that looks a little bit more like the One X. It still has the same dimensions as the S, but no longer has a visible disc tray at all. To also emphasize this concept of being all digital, it does come bundled with 3 digital codes right away: Forza Horizon 3, Minecraft, and Sea of Thieves, which, by the way, I already have all these games, so pay close attention to this video and you might see some of those codes make a little appearance. There's also a deal for people who don't currently have accounts with Game Pass to sign up for 3 months for Game Pass for $1, which is also the deal going on right now for their spring sale, which is a really great price to be able to access all these subscription-based games. Now, some of you might be looking at the system and wondering why. Why make a system that cuts out what is arguably one of the key features of a system, the ability to play physical games or even watch physical versions of movies? And the answer is, well, because it's the future. Look, I know there is that part in everyone who's grown up gaming where you have this attachment to the nostalgia of physical media. I get it. I am the same way. I still buy most of my games physically, but at the same time, I understand that there has been a very heavy shift in the way the gaming industry has been going, and that a lot of people honestly don't care about that. As the years have gone by and digital has become more and more accessible and more people are comfortable with the concept of buying something digitally, there's been a very heavy shift towards this idea of people aren't really buying physical games anymore. I mean, if you even look at stats comparing physical to digital sales over the last 10 years, numbers from 2009 to 2017 basically show a flip in users, where way back then you had 80% people physical, 20% digital, and now it's more like 80% digital, 20% physical. Reasons for this are numerous. First off, for a lot of people, digital is a lot more convenient. You don't have to go to a store. You don't have to wait for something to ship. If you want to play a game, the moment it's available, you can preload it on your system, and at midnight or 9 p.m. or wherever you are, you can just play it the second that it's now playable. Now, something that is a bit of an elephant in the room for this system is the fact that it's $249, which is $50 cheaper than the MSRP of an Xbox One S, but that's not necessarily how much it actually costs to get a One S these days. If you search in the right places, you can pretty easily find discontinued versions of the bundle that go for lower than $300 and even lower than $250. With that in mind, it's gonna be interesting to see how, as time passes, if deals start to show up for this thing and it goes down over time, how it's gonna start comparing to those options. Now, as for the actual experience of having one of these, it is interesting to see the just kind of small differences right away in the experience of having this versus a regular One S. Again, visually it doesn't have that disc slot, which I do think looks a little bit better. I think the One X pulls it off a little more because it has that slightly thinner form factor, but I still like the visual of having not anything interrupting the middle here and just having that one solid color. And I'm really curious if down the line they start doing other bundles or versions of this, what other colors might start to pop up. It's also interesting when you actually just physically pick one of these up compared to a One S, because there is a difference in how the weight feels, because it's not just that it's missing a disk drive, but it's because the disk drive normally just occupies this side of the system. So it almost feels a little more lopsided, which isn't normally going to be an issue when you just have it set up sitting somewhere, but it is an odd thing to notice the first time you pick one up. So seeing as how the main difference is the removal of the disk drive, I'm curious what the actual weight difference is going to be between these two systems. So we'll start with the regular One S, and that weighs in at 6 pounds, just under 8 ounces, while the all-digital is 5 pounds, 7 ounces, so it's a little over a pound lighter. So seeing as how the big difference in the new One S is the removal of the disk drive, I'm curious what the weight difference is going to be. So we're going to start by weighing the regular One S and see how the all-digital compares. So to start, we'll weigh this one, and we've got 2.9 kilograms. Let's see what we have with the all digital. Let me set this one down. Got this one. And 2.4 kilograms. That's a whole half kilogram off. It's pretty noticeable. So to see if there's anything different about the actual inside of this, which I suspected really is just gonna be a One S with the drive ripped out, we're gonna open it up. So the first step is to void our warranty. Yeah, so normally the disk drive would be right under here, but this looks different from how it normally would. And there's just a big old empty space where the drive used to be. Yeah, so they reinforced with this bit right here to make sure it still feels strong, but it's just a big empty space. This model also ships with a 1TB hard drive, which has basically become the standard for a lot of current models of the Xbox One and even of competing systems. Now, with stuff that's pre-installed and the actual software of the system itself, this really leaves you with about just under 800 gigs to work with for games to install on the system. Of course, if you ever want more storage than that 1TB, you do have the option of using external hard drives. You just plug into one of the USB ports, or if you want to go really extra, rip the system open and replace it with your own. And again, I get it, there's benefits and reasons to wanting to have things physically. I'm the same way. I still buy a lot of games physically when I can, but it's just not the way a lot of the market's going. And this isn't something that's being hardcore forced on everyone just yet. I mean, this isn't replacing the 1S. This is another option to the 1S. If you don't care about physical games at all and you just want to buy all your stuff digitally, that's what the all digital is for. If you still want physical games, well, they're still selling and producing those regular versions of the 1S and 1X if that's what you want. But I think this is a very clear sign of something that Microsoft's been doing a lot the last couple of years, in that it's another market test to see how much people really care about this option, and if they'd rather just save the money to have a no-disc system. And this all comes back to what I think are tests for what the next generation of systems are going to look like. And we've talked a lot about the idea of a streaming-focused system that's a cheaper option that doesn't have anything internally in it at all. It's just a way to play games over the internet. But there's also the comparison of, if there's multiple new models of this next generation system, maybe there's an option that is just a digitally focused one, and then the Pro one that costs more, kind of like here with the 1X, is going to be one that includes a disk drive. And this isn't the first time this idea has been messed with before either. In fact, PlayStation did this before with their PSP system, where they had the regular PSPs that had the UMD disc things, but then as an alternative model they eventually released that did develop a cult audience was the PSP Go, where because it didn't have to worry about having that reading technology, it was a lot more compact and had this flip design that was a really cool change. The debate of physical versus digital media has been going on for a long time, especially with video games in particular. And part of that argument's always been, well, yes, there's the merits of one or the other, but at some point, physical is just going to die off in exchange for the digital. And when is that going to happen? Is that going to be this next generation? I don't think so. Not 100% at least. I think there's still going to be physical options out there, but they're going to be less and less focused on, and eventually the way they're going to get people used to this is by offering these kind of cheaper, all-digital options. Oh, and almost forgot, the new Xbox One S All Digital will be releasing in just under a month on May 7th.